So, this is my book review of Reign of Madness, which is the second book in the Kingstar Tidings series, which is my favorite book series of all time. Now, I've filmed enough reviews by now to know that I don't do very well with sitting and looking to a camera, so I'm going to talk in my review while you watch me draw something. And because this is Kingstar Tidings, I thought, why not do it with one of the rules? Because I still haven't made all of them, even though I've been at it for a while. And for those of you who had no idea what the fuck I was talking about with draw rules, well, I took a calligraphy class in high school, and ever since I've had a mission to draw all of the rules mentioned in the book, calligraphy style. So I'm currently at, well, I haven't color-coded everyone yet, but I'm at rule 165. But you are going to see me make rule number 76, which is finish your tasks. Which seems appropriate, because I never ever do that. This is a rule I really should take to heart and not ignore. My tasks, which never gets done. Well, let's go! And please ignore the weird angle. I still haven't figured out the best way to record my art videos. Reign of Madness picks up right where Free the Darkness left off, with Reskin and the gang waiting for the Jabais to get to the ship. But something has changed. Reskin is wearing ridiculous clothes and acting strangely. Well, book 2 is where we really get to see what Reskin meant by that he can play any part flawlessly and get anyone to believe anything he says. Because here we see him identifying the persona that will allow him to have the biggest effect on the nobles and playing that part perfectly. This book can be split into 2 parts. If you're like me and do the audiobook, the first 11 hours are spent on the journey to the tournament, and the remaining 8.5 are at the tournament. I personally didn't get bored with the journey to the tournament, but if you do, just keep going, because the last 8 hours of the book are amazing. The first part of the book allows us to pick up more important characters, and more importantly, give Reskin a new motivation. Because in the first book, Reskin is only doing things to 1. Find Farson, and 2. Protect and honor his friends. In book 2, we get a third motivation that is going to keep Reskin scheming for the rest of the series. As for the important characters, we get Journeyman Wesson, who is probably the most important person on Team Good Guys after Reskin. He actually gets his own book, The Mage of No Renown, but what I find so funny about the whole thing is how they met him and how and why he joins the gang. On the rereads, when you know how important he becomes, it's hilarious to see exactly how he became part of the team. And then there's Kai. Kai is my second most favorite character after Reskin, of course. And every time I know that Kai is about to make an entrance, I sit like, Kai, 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 Kai! Woo! Here he comes! I am fangirling hard for Kai. He is wonderful. And one of the most hilarious things about Kai is that he single-handedly changes the direction of the story. he does so much to advance the plot. There's this really funny meme that sums up Kai's role in the story perfectly. I blurred out the spoiler part. I'm not really sure what it is I like so much about Kai. I mean, I like Reskin because he's insanely competent, socially awkward, and just so OP without it being unwarranted. But with Kai, I think he adds something to the story that wasn't there before. He has this role that no one else has been able to fill. And not just what he does plot-wise, but what the kind of energy he brings into the story. He kind of comes in as an instructor, and I love how much he bullies all of the nobles. He has this sadistic trainer, delights in causing pain to his trainees, which might sound like it's a bad thing, but it isn't, because Kai is hilarious. He's funny and sarcastic, and he just... Oh, the way Nick Podell does his voice is amazing. It just makes you want to laugh. And Kai is also the first person to really stand up for Reskin. I know the others do that in their own way, but he's the only one who does it towards Reskin's friends. Remember in book 1 when Reskin was willing to vacate his room because Tam and Frisha would be safer or something? He got kicked out of his own room voluntarily because he doesn't understand Rule 1 properly. He doesn't understand honor and protect. And he kind of views his friends like above him. And he will let them get away with absolutely anything. He doesn't stand up for himself. He's the world's most powerful doormat. And now we got Kai, who calls out his friends on his behalf without him asking him to. And it is needed. One thing to know about me is that I'm not all that good at recognizing what is and what isn't a spoiler. I run an Instagram account for Kingstark Tidings, and even though I've tried to mark things as spoiler when I think it is, like I said, I'm not the best knowing when something is a spoiler, so don't check that out if you haven't read the series yet. But if you have, then here it is. This is also the mark for when the spoiler part of this video starts, where I will talk openly about all the things I loved about this book. So there's a lot less Raven business in this book than in the first one, but now the Raven business has been replaced with Dark Tidings business, which is basically the same thing, only slightly less beheadings. So one of my favorite things about this book is Tyrion. Because in the first book, we are briefly introduced to him while he's spilling something on Frisha's dress and then is very rude to her. And to teach him a lesson, Reskin puts him on the same boat as them. And he spends a lot of time kind of gaslighting him because he's playing the part of a very pompous noble, while Tyrion has seen him ready to murder him. But we do get a lot of character development for Tyrion. He's still kind of pompous noble, kind of insufferable, but he's not as dismissive of commoners at the end, and he's matured. He's more of a you start to see that he could become a good duke. I also really like how he gets included in the banter, because he has a lot to offer in the banter department. At the end of the book, you have a lot of hope for Tyrion's character. He's on his way to become a really, really good character. And a good person, even. And now it's time to talk about Palace. I mean, from a writing standpoint, I know that he was the best one to die, because he had the least thing to do with the plot, and was probably most people's favorite. I remember I would have liked it to be Malcius, but I cried a lot more because it was Palace. And it just feels so unnecessary. He didn't need to die. He could have just kept swimming. Reskin would have been fine. But I also really respect him for it, because Assyria is standing with her king, and Palace is standing with the woman he loves. They are both there for noble reasons, even though neither of them needs to be there. It's fucking Reskin. He'll be fine. But while we're on that, I think Assyria is a good addition to the team. She is basically the first female character since Lady Adelina, Markham's wife, who is actually someone you can stand having around. Because if you're on the Reddit part of this fandom long enough, you know that most people find Frisha insufferable, and yeah, most of us thought Kel Kade was a man because of how the female characters were written. Kel is not a man, it's a woman, and it's weird how bad the female characters are. They're noticeably worse than the males. I mean, the male characters, most of them are amazing. And maybe the female characters aren't actually bad, but the male characters are so great that they seem bad in comparison. I don't know. But I at least appreciate that Assyria isn't completely obsessed with Reskin. Because Jesus Christ, just about every woman we've met has become instantly in lust with him. It is annoying, especially when he doesn't want it. I appreciate Assyria for having common sense and staying away from this obvious walking killer machine. I respect her for having those instincts. And yeah, she has something to offer, so good. Assyria is good. And Farson. Farson, you little bitch. Your whole point in the story was so that you were going to explain to Reskin that he's been following the wrong rules, and you didn't do that. You just went on with your cryptic shit. He needed answers from you. It's your job to give him answers. Jesus Christ, god damn it, Farson. You had one job and you didn't do it. I mean, it is Reskin. We know that he would expect a seat from you. But still, you didn't even try to give him the right answers. Seriously, Farson, you have failed as a father figure. You're supposed to... And you didn't give him a hug either. Oh... I know I'm expecting too much, but when he went on and like, oh, I thought of him like a son, he was incapable of feelings, and I just sit there like, no, he does feel, he feels a lot, and you just doesn't give him what he needs. Oh, I mean, I just feel so bad for both of them. Because Reskin has this whole... Farson has seen Reskin. He knows the training and knows that he's been trained to feel nothing. Reskin doesn't understand that he actually feels things. Ever since he left the fortress, he's had this ache in his chest anytime he thinks of the fortress and the dead strikers. And he, at some point, understood that it was some kind of psychological issue connecting to that event. But for fuck's sake, he needs some guidance. He needs someone who helps him. And yeah, I'm expecting you to do that, Farson. Frisha was the only other who was trying to help him with that. He needs help. He needs therapy. And I expect someone to get it for him. I think what makes me really like Reskin and love watching what he's doing is that he's so extremely competent at everything. He's never caught off guard unless there's a social interaction involving love. But there's no problems for him. Or there is problems, but he knows how to deal with every single one of them. And I think my favorite moment in this book was when Tyrion sends a message to Reskin because he's just heard someone talk about an assassination on a mail. And he is panicking and Reskin comes over there and just saves him from getting poisoned twice. And then just makes up an excuse to get him out of there and takes him to safety. And then they find out that they're cousins. And I just think that was one of those moments when one of his friends was in need of help. He could get there immediately and fix it. Reskin is the kind of person you want to have on your side. The kind of person you need in your life if you have those kind of problems. So that was my review and blabbering about Reign of Madness, the second book in the Kingstark Tidings series by Kel Kade.